I don't know who I'm talking today, but somebody's been thinking too small, too scared, too late. But, baby, let me remind you of something. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They create it. You see, the mind of a winner, it doesn't crumble under pressure. It grows. It stretches. It multiplies in silence. You've been sitting there, stuck in the loop of what if I fail? What if they leave? But what if it doesn't work? But what if it does? What if this time it finally clicks? A winner doesn't need applause to keep going. They don't need a stage to start walking. Because purpose doesn't beg for attention. It just moves. The difference between those who dream and those who do is mindset. Not money, not opportunity, mindset. So if you're gonna think, baby, think like a champion. Speak like a warrior. Walk like you already won. Even if your feet are still trembling. Because the battlefield, it's in here. Touch chest. And today, we tear down every lie that told you you're not enough. Let's go. Let me ask you something. What if it was never the situation? What if it was never the environment, never the lack, never the opposition, but always the mindset? You keep saying, if I had more time, I'd move. If I had more money, I'd go. If they supported me, I'd rise. But baby, you don't need better circumstances. You need a better mindset. Because mindset, that's the gatekeeper. That's the difference. That's the shift between stuck and soaring, between staying down and getting up. See, life will always give you a reason to stop. Always. It will hand you storms, detours, delays, and doors that slam right in your face. But listen, your response to the storm, that's mindset, your posture in the delay. That's mindset. Your praise when nothing is changing. That's mindset. Your grind when no one is clapping. Mindset. Movement. When you could have made an excuse. Oh yes. You think champions are made on stages. You think greatness is born in applause. No. It's born in the silence. In the shadows. In the moments where your feelings say, quit. But your faith says, get up. Try again. Show up. That's mindset. That's power. That's what separates almost from always. And I know you've been through it. I know you've cried more nights than you've confessed. I know you've held your breath, waiting for something to break. I know you've looked at other people rising and whispered to heaven, when is it my turn? But can I tell you something? It's not your turn you're waiting on. It's your mindset. Because breakthrough doesn't begin with a miracle. It begins with a mindset shift, with a holy decision to think different, to believe bigger, to speak higher, to say, no matter what I see, I'm still moving. No matter what I feel, I'm still building. No matter who left me, I'm still chosen. That's mindset. And let me say this, circumstances might delay you, but they can't define you. You might broke, but your mind can still be rich in vision. You might be tired, but your mind can still wake up with hope. You might be overlooked, but your mindset can still scream, I was born for this. Because you can't wait for the conditions to be perfect. You can't wait for the crowd to approve. You can't wait for the finances to be flawless. Champions don't wait, they walk. Champions don't watch, they war. Champions don't wonder, they work. And it all begins, not in the bank, but in the brain. What are you telling yourself? Because some of y'all aren't stuck. You're just programmed. Programmed to fear. Programmed to doubt. Programmed to settle for scraps. When God called you to the table, mindset, it says, I'm reprogramming today. I'm deleting every lie that told me I'm not enough. I'm shutting down every voice that said I can't. I'm clearing the mental clutter that's been crowding out my clarity. Because here's the truth. If you can shift the way you think, you can shift the way you live. If you can shift the way you talk, you can shift what you attract. If you can shift your internal dialogue, your external destiny has to respond. Because mindset, it's not hype, it's not trend, it's not just positive thinking. It's survival. It's spiritual warfare. It's prophetic strategy. It's saying, I refuse to let fear have the final word. I refuse to let pain write my future. I refuse to be a prisoner that no longer serve my purpose. And I know it's not easy. It's not overnight. But mindset says, I'm committed. I'm consistent. I'm clear on who I am. Even when the world forgets. I'm powerful. Even when my emotions lie. Even when it feels quiet. I'm ready. Even when I feel raw. That's mindset. See, a lot of people have talent, but talent won't keep you when life hits. A lot of people have platforms, but no foundation. A lot of people are loud, but not aligned. And if your mindset isn't rooted, then your movement will always be reactive. You'll wait for applause. You'll wait for comfort. You'll wait for permission. But mindset says, I give myself permission. I validate myself in silence. I walk like I'm already crowned, even if I'm still in the cave. Because let me be clear, David was anointed before he ever saw a throne. Joseph had a dream long before the palace. Esther had courage before she ever had a crown. And Jesus, he was king before the cross. So stop waiting for the circumstance to confirm the call. Your mindset is the confirmation. Your belief is the evidence. Your movement is the proof. So today, you can rise without applause. You can build without blueprint. You can move without map. Because you've got the mindset. You've got the mind of a champion. You've got the thinking of the call. You've got the posture of the planet. And when your mindset is set, hell can't shake you. Delay can't stop you. Disappointment can't define you. You walk different. You talk different. You think different. Because you know your mindset determines your movement, not your circumstances. You ever been fired up on a Monday? You ever woke up full of energy, full of vision? Let's go. But then by Wednesday, you're already negotiating with your excuses. By Friday, you're convincing yourself it's okay. Quit. That's motivation. That's what happens when you build your life on feelings instead of foundations. Because motivation is loud, but discipline is loyal. See, motivation shows up when it's sunny, when the music's right, when the vision board's fresh, when the feedback is flowing. But discipline shows up when it's dark, when nobody's watching, when it's quiet, cold, lonely, when your body says no but your purpose says. And let's be honest, we live in a generation obsessed with hype, but not the maintenance. We want the calling, but not the conditioning. We want the crown, but skip the cross. But discipline isn't glamorous, it's grind. It's daily, it's dusty, it's silent, but it speaks so loud. It speaks when you don't cancel the workout, even when your energy's gone. It speaks when you show up to the dream, even when your friends disappear. It speaks when you pray, even when heaven feels quiet. It speaks when you invest, even when the ROI isn't instant. Discipline says, if I made a decision, and I'm sticking to it, I don't feel it, but I still do it. I'm not moved by moods, I'm moved by mission. Because let me tell you, motivation is seasonal. It comes and goes. It rides the highs and crashes in the lows. But discipline, Discipline is eternal. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need fire. It doesn't need followers. It just needs you. Showing up every single time. And some of you keep waiting on motivation to strike again. But baby, motivation is a spark. Not a system, it's a moment. Not a mindset. If all you have is motivation, you're vulnerable. You'll crush it when but collapse when you're off. You'll run fast, but only for a minute. You'll build, but only halfway. You'll start, but you'll never finish. Because motivation fades, but discipline finishes the race. And I need to say this, discipline is not about perfection. It's not about never messing up. It's about getting back up quick. It's about saying, okay, I missed it today, but tomorrow I'm back. I slipped, but I didn't surrender, but I didn't fold. That's discipline. That's grown woman grace. That's champion energy. And I get it. Discipline doesn't always feel divine. It feels repetitive. It feels unnoticed. It feels boring. But it's building something inside of you. It's developing muscles motivation can't reach. It's cultivating strength for a storm you haven't seen yet. It's preparing you for the platform you prayed for. Because hear me, if you get the promise without the discipline, the blessing will break you. If you get the spotlight without the structure, the pressure will crush you. If you get the ease without the work, you'll sabotage what you were called to steward. That's why discipline matters. That's why God sometimes delays the door, so He can develop the discipline. You keep asking for increase, but can you handle it? You want more influence, but can you carry it with character? You want acceleration, but do you have the alignment? Discipline is the difference. The unseen choices, the early mornings, the late nights, the boundaries no one applauds, the sacrifices nobody claps for, the small decisions that build massive destiny. And listen, you won't always want to do it. You won't always wake up with a roar. But champions don't chase feelings. Champions train. Champions focus. Champions commit. And commitment is louder than mood. Consistency is louder than applause. Obedience is louder than options. And we live in a time where everyone's saying, follow your heart. But sometimes your heart is tired. Sometimes your heart is tempted. Sometimes your heart doesn't want to do the work. So you have to train your habits. You have to master your mind. You have to trust your discipline. Because you weren't called to be flaky. You were called to be faithful. You weren't called to be trendy. You were called to be timeless. You weren't called to ride a wave. You were called to walk. Walking on water takes focus, takes obedience, takes discipline. You don't get to destiny by hoping. You don't get to purpose by posting. You get there one disciplined day at a time, prayer at a time, one rep at a time. One is in private. That turns into power in public. And hear me, discipline doesn't feel like fire. But it is fire. It burns off what doesn't belong. It refines what's real. It exposes what's weak and strengthens what's eternal. Because there's a version of you haven't even met yet. A version that doesn't quit. A version that doesn't shrink. A version that shows up strong even when she feels small. But you'll only meet her through discipline, not through hype, not through emotion, not through when I feel like it, through doing it. You don't need another motivation video. You need a strategy. You need a rhythm. You need holy habits. You need sacred structure. Because where there is discipline, there is dominion. Where there is discipline, there is deliverance. Where there is discipline, there is destiny. And I know it's hard. I know you're busy. I know the kids need you. I know the bills are calling. But your dream, your calling, your purpose is not waiting for things to calm down. It's waiting for you to rise up, to say, no more waiting on inspiration. No more waiting to feel ready. No more building only when I'm motivated. I move in building now, with or without a cheer squad. I'm becoming her now. Not because I'm high-heeled, because discipline. Innate, more building, more effort choice. Discipline speaks. And what it says is louder than every excuse you've ever believed. Pressure. It'll either shape you or shatter you. It'll either build you or break you. It'll either elevate you or expose you. But listen, pressure was never the enemy. Panic was. Because pressure has always been part of the promise. Diamonds don't form without it. Oil doesn't flow without it. Gold isn't purified without it. Purpose doesn't rise without it. So why are you trying to pray it away? Why are you trying to run from the very thing God's using to reveal your strength? See, pressure doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to define you. It's heaven's way of asking, do you really want it? Do you really believe it? Do you really trust me? When it's not easy, when it's not instant, when it's not comfortable. But panic is your soul, screaming louder than your spirit. Panic is that moment when your faith forgets how far you've come, when your mind starts racing and your heart starts doubting, when you start shrinking instead of standing, when you forget that storms don't stop purpose, they reveal it. Let's be honest, we've all been there. Moments where everything's closing in. Deadlines, bills, diagnosis, disappointment. You can't breathe. Can't think, can't see a way out, but that, right there, that's the pressure zone. And what you do in that zone is what decides your next level. Champions are made in comfort. Champions are made in chaos, in silence, in struggle, in moments where quitting feels easier than continuing. But instead, they breathe. They ground themselves. They don't panic because they know pressure is proof they're close. Close to breakthrough, close to transformation, close to becoming her. Pressure doesn't feel spiritual. It feels like suffocation. Like, God, where are you? I didn't sign up for this. Like, I thought I'd be further by now. But let me tell you something. Pressure is sacred. It's holy ground. It's the gym where your faith gets strong. The fire where your identity is forged. The wilderness where your name is whispered. Pressure will squeeze your weakness to unlock your warrior. It'll expose your fear so your faith can take the mic. It'll shake your routine so you stop living predictable and start living purposeful. Because sometimes pressure doesn't come to break you. It comes to break the patterns that have been holding you hostage. Patterns of procrastination, patterns of self-doubt, patterns of comparison, patterns of playing small when God called you to slay giants. And I get it, panic is loud. It says, this is too much. I can't do this. What if I fail? But pressure speaks too. It just whispers. It says, you're ready. You were born for this. You've got more in you than you think. But the problem is, we often amplify the panic and mute the pressure. We forget that pressure is the birthplace of legacy, of vision, of miracles. And if you look back, really look back, you'll see it wasn't the easy seasons that grew you. It was the stretching, the moments where you had to believe, where you had no plan B, where you walked through fire and came out forged. Because pressure will put you in rooms your comfort zone never could. It'll open doors you didn't knock on. It'll attract favor you didn't campaign for. But only if you don't panic. Because panic makes you reactive, but pressure makes you resilient. Panic says run, but pressure says rise. Panic says shrink, but pressure says shift. I know it's hard. The silence, the warfare in your mind. But pressure isn't here to punish you. It's here to position you. It's pushing you out of what's familiar, pulling you into what's faithful, stretching you beyond your limits, so you can see you never had limits to begin with. And here's what I've learned. God will never let pressure touch you if He hasn't already planted power in you. He's not surprised by what you're facing. He's not pacing heaven wondering if you'll make it. He's confident. He's already equipped you. But the enemy wants to make you forget, wants to make you freeze, wants to make you think this is the end, when really it's the activation. This isn't collapse. This is the contraction before birth. This isn't failure. This is the foundation being shaken so truth can stand. This isn't rejection. This is redirection. And this pressure, it's not punishment, it's preparation. Pressure doesn't mean you're out of alignment. Sometimes it means you're right on track, because the devil doesn't attack what's empty. He attacks what's expensive. He applies pressure where there's potential. And if you're feeling it, that means there's something inside you so big, so powerful, that hell's trying to stop it before it starts. But you've got a choice. Retreat or to release, to give up or to grow. Because when you learn to breathe in pressure, you start breaking through what used to break you. You stop seeing obstacles and start seeing opportunities. You stop asking, why me? And start declaring, tree me. Because pressure doesn't cancel power. It concentrates it. It doesn't weaken purpose. It wakes it up. And when you stop panicking, you start producing. You start speaking clearer, loving deeper, moving wiser, believing harder. Because now, you know how to handle the heat. You've been in the fire, and you didn't fold. You've walked through storms, and didn't drown. You've stood under pressure, and didn't break. Now, pressure knows your name. And so does purpose. And so does power. Because you didn't panic, you pressed.